From Durant, Oklahoma, this is Midwest Sports Saturday. I'm Joey McWilliams. Thank you for watching our program here today. We are live on the campus of Southeastern Oklahoma State University here in Durant. The Henderson State Reddies are in town to play football against the Savage Storm here in just a moment. But right now, I wanted to visit with someone who's coaching a new program here at Southeastern, and she's been the coach of a not really an old program, but she's been the men's golf coach for a while. And now the women's golf program has started here in 2023. Coach Sydney Youngblood Blanton. Coach, thank you so much for taking time with us today here on Midwest Sports Saturday.
Hey, thank you for having me. I always enjoy getting to talk to you.
And we've had a lot of chance to talk over the years. By the way, Midwest Sports Saturday is presented today by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, friend of the channel and proud sponsor here. Together, we're more. We've had a chance to visit over the years because Sydney is a fantastic athlete. So I always call everyone coach, but I called you Sydney when you were playing golf in high school all those years ago. So forgive me if it stays with me just a little bit. 4-time state champion in golf. But let's go to the coaching side for just a moment. Coach, you've started the new program here. You were the men's golf coach for what, a year plus?
2 years.
2 years. Before the women's program was kicked off and underway. Had your first tournament this past weekend. Talk about taking the girls to the first ever event in program history.
You probably know this just as well as anybody. Guys are very different from women. And so being able to just take them and get to experience their lives and their things on the road, I think that was a lot more fun. The boys usually just snooze in the back. We had girls playing heads up and talking about Taylor Swift, and it was a really enjoyable first week, I think. So,
that's I appreciate you bringing it out like that. I mean, and yes, I do. And I have 4 daughters and a son. That's well documented here on the channel. But yes, I do know the difference in those, and it is a big difference. And I had the opportunity years ago when I was coaching high school basketball and coaching the boys and the girls, and you're exactly right. And there are a lot of things that are so much more out in the open. I mean, a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
You all competed then. You went up to Blue Springs, Missouri, and took part in the Central Region Preview.
Yeah. So obviously we're part of the Central Region, and so I thought it would be a good idea to be able to kind of get a preview, as they call it, of where we would play regionals in the spring. And so I think it was a great test. The course was awesome, green as could be. We teed off and it was 63 degrees. I was almost too cold at that point. And so it was a good challenge. I think we walked away this week with a lot of things we need to work on. And, I think there was a lot of positives, and obviously there were some things going on personally behind the scenes that nobody really knew about. So,
when the external things like that, they are real factors. I mean, you can talk about, what it means to be able to perform on the field of play, the court, diamond, whatever the case may be. But when there are external factors going on around that you can't see, but it does have an effect on the bottom line and that final score.
Oh, absolutely. I think any athlete can attest to this. Is if you've got something going on in your personal life, whether it be a family issue or even a health issue, it really can take a toll on you mentally as far as your confidence and just your ability to be present in the moment. And I think we had 2 incidents this week where things just happened out of the blue, and you just can't. You're like, well, that happened. We got to roll with it at this point. And so, but like I said, this week was awesome. I think they got to experience something fun and new, and obviously we got to go to a really great place with really great weather. So I mean, we can't ask for much more than that. So
you mentioned that, and the weather in Durant, Oklahoma, it's been 3 digits for more than 50 days this summer, and not all in a row. Well, it seems like it's been all of that in a row here, and so I know that's a big deal. It has to be a blessing for the girls to be able to play in a situation like that. Coach, one of the other things too about your sport that's not rare, but it's not something that most sports experience, in that it does have competition in both semesters, and it's separated. I mean, basketball, you go from one right to another with Christmas break. I mean, you have 3 or 4 competitions in the early part of the fall semester, and then the latter part of the spring is when you get the rest of those tournaments going. What's it like to have that big a gap between competition?
I think it's a good thing for us as far as golfers go. Usually most of the time through the summer, at least for like collegiate golfers, there's not a ton for them to do that is prohibited by the NCAA as far as eligibility concerns. And so through the summer, you're practicing, but there's not a lot of tournament play that you can do. And so through the fall, I think it's a good way for them to kind of get back in the gear, get back in the motion of what we're about to do. And then obviously whenever we finish the fall in like late October, they'll have from November, December, and then we kick it back off in January. And then we start going square one back into tournaments late February. And from February to hopefully all the way through May and June, you're playing. And so I think it's a good thing. And I think it keeps them mentally checked in and locked in. And so I can't ask for a bet. I wish they would switch the seasons, obviously. Have all of our conference stuff in the fall. You know how Oklahoma weather can be and weather in this area. And so that would be the only thing I'm
I feel like we're about to get an object lesson of how much I know about the weather here right now. The triple digits is continuing on into today. We're hearing that we're going to get a break for the weather around here, but we heard that it was going to happen sometime late tonight, and I think that's even been pushed another day or two back. So
yeah.
if I sweat all the way through, forgive me. Here we are, and we're at Paul Laird Field right now. By the way, Joey McWilliams here on Midwest Sports Saturday, presented today by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma with Coach Sydney Youngblood Blanton, who is the women's coach, also the men's coach too. Talk about that for just a little bit now, because if you're coaching both of these teams, how do the men for Southeastern look this season?
I think we look really, really good this year. We've got 4 returning seniors who have played continually through the last 3 years that they've been here. They know what they're doing. They know the routine, they know the courses that we're playing, and I think that they've got that confidence, and especially now that they're seniors, they've got that fire in them. They're like, we have 1 year left, let's go get something done. And we added a really awesome freshman and a transfer to our program, and so I think the addition of those 2 as well as our 4 senior leaders, I think we're going to be in a really great spot this year.
Your workload, at least in theory, has increased 100%. Do
Yes.
you feel like it's increased 100%, and how's that going on your end?
Scale, I've lost 5 pounds from all the stress, so I would say I can definitely feel the stress. No, I think, obviously the men, I've worked with them for the last 2 years. They know the routine. They know how things are, how I like to operate things, I should say. And so they've been awesome with that. I'll just give them the schedule for the day and they go about their business, whereas I can focus more on the women because we do have 4 freshmen on the women's side. And so the boys have been awesome in that sense, and it's given me a little more time to figure out the women and get to know them a little bit more. But yeah, workload has definitely increased a lot more than I was expecting. So.
Well, I can imagine with all of that going on. Now, I do want to mention one more thing before we let you go, Coach, and that will go back to what we mentioned at the beginning. 4-time state champion in golf yourself, and you played on the collegiate level as well, University of Oklahoma. You've had some other tournaments in there too. Are you still competing every now and again?
That's a great question. I would love to to continually compete. I think that just kind of keeps the fire lit as a former athlete, and I think that's why you see a lot of former golfers still continue to play and stuff after they're done. And so I would still love to compete. I think there's going to be some area tournaments on the professional circuit that come through here, the Texoma area, and we'll see how it goes.
All right. Well, when that time comes, we definitely want to make sure that we follow that as well and talk about what you're doing, because you do those things well. And I'm excited to get to see you being able to share what you know, and not only the ability that you have, the God-given ability that you have, but also to play this sport. It takes something up here too, and you're having the opportunity to get to share that with another generation out there. So congratulations on the job you have and the new one that you have acquired as well. So
appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, that's why I got into coaching. I love the game of golf, and I was given the opportunity as a small girl to pursue something as grand as what I believe is one of the greatest sports ever invented. And so being able to and then return that to not only the men but now a women's team, that's why I got into coaching, was to give back. And I'm just super excited and super thrilled. Southeastern gave me a job. So
all right, really quickly then, we have the blue and gold, the big interlocking SC on the field behind us right now. Southeastern is getting ready for its first home football game of the season. What do you think is going to happen here this afternoon?
we're going to get a dub is what's going to happen tonight.
All right. Hey, doesn't it, you don't have to elaborate any more than that. I think that's exactly all that you need to say. Coach Sydney Youngblood Blanton, thank you so much for taking time with us today here on Midwest Sports Saturday.
Hey, thank you. I always appreciate it. I'm a subscriber, so I enjoy the content.
Man, that means a lot. All right. You can come back anytime. We're going to be in
it.
Edmond next Saturday, so that's great. Thank you,
Appreciate
Coach.
it.
I appreciate
Thank
it. Here, here you go. God bless you all. And I appreciate having Coach on the show. And if you have not seen her on, well, maybe not on this channel before, we have OklahomaSports.net, and I know she was a big part of that too. We had an opportunity to visit her more than once, and of course you get a chance to talk with someone who's won 4 consecutive state championships. It's always a real honor. So I appreciate her stopping by as well. And we have one more guest that's going to come in here in just a moment. And in the meantime, let me say again, Midwest Sports Saturday today, presented by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. Together, we're more, and that is more than just a statement. There's so much that the Choctaw Nation does for this area in particular, in ways that it as a nation is benefiting the people in this 10.5 county area and beyond. NAI football, let me mention something. We do have a couple of scores that are in really quickly as my next guest is making his way over here right now, and he can come on in here. These 2 scores are final, and we have only 2 final just because of the information that's gotten to me. Thomas at point today, and Thomas in the first ever game for Thomas University, which is an athletic program, or the football program is a military transition program, bringing in players from the military, helping them get back into civilian life, and also a few of the reserve that are playing. Thomas had its first.
It worked for OU post World War II. Just say
exactly. There you go.
It worked for OU. So
well, they won in the scrimmage last week. It was determined it was a scrimmage against the Georgia Warhawks, a prep school, playing against Point today at Point in Valley, Alabama, and it was tied 17-all in the 4th. And Point comes back with a field goal in the 4th, and Point wins today, 20-17. And so the Hawks actually get their first win of the season. They go to 1-2. This one also from Baker today. Clark got the upset last year, that 2019 upset. You may remember that one. That was a big win for Clark. Baker at home today. You knew that they wanted to get this, and the Wildcats came back with a vengeance. 45-0 Baker over Clark today. That is the final. I know.
That's anybody who listens to my broadcast knows that when we drop a score like that, we go yee. That's because of our boss Bob Sullins doing that one time, and we've made fun of him ever since. It's been a 2-year running joke.
All right, I speak about friends of the channel, and I would say that this man is a friend of the channel. I was going to say young man,
yeah,
but the gray in the beard is starting to say that may not be as much.
For all of
anymore.
you guys out there that want to be in media, call me first. This is what happens to you.
I was going to say this is what happens.
Both. It's a two-way street. It's a two-way street.
Jay Lindley, who is the voice of the Savage Storm and has been for a number of years, stopping by today. And Jay, obviously football getting ready to go on behind us. There's nothing happening right now. It's
hot.
Empty.
I mean, it's hot. That's it. Like, if, so one of the things, I was laughing about this Thursday night in my high school game, which you say for a long, this is year number 9 for Southeastern, so I've almost done it a decade. Year number 16 for Sherman. And we're there about this time, always get there set up. And I'm like, this is the downfall of video streaming, because everyone looks at what's going on outside their living room and goes, I can put this on my smart TV. I can have my refreshments, no bathroom line, and I got AC. And so I wouldn't be surprised we have a lot of viewers today on the broadcast because it's like 110.
It does feel that way. I think technically.
I feel like I need to bring over my little mop for your head, because I see the beading sweat.
You would, and honestly, you would see it more. We are actually better lit than we would be. We do have some lighting in here right now because we were just going to have the backlighting of the football field. The last time I was in this booth doing this, all I was a silhouette, so I can see me a little bit more, but at least you can't see all of the sweat right now.
This is one day you don't do the TV makeup, Joey.
Oh, man. See, and that's Mrs. Midwest Sports.
Y'all gotta love this, because this is what I do to Joey. I do this off air. Yeah, I just love it.
He does it mid-broadcast, too, when I'm trying to call. We've called a number of games together. Mrs. Midwest Sports, and I will tell you this, then we'll actually talk sports.
Yeah.
She would like for me to do more makeup. The problem is, where does it stop?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
just keeps
yeah,
going,
yeah.
and then we run out of makeup the first time we buy some. So
Yeah,
I didn't want to.
yeah.
I didn't want to do that.
And
All
then
right.
you have some problems like the polo, how far down the
far
neck
down
you
you're
go.
gonna go.
Yeah, yeah.
Then the polo
Yeah,
stays.
and then,
I mean, it's always gonna.
the former president didn't do a good job of that. You see that giant white spot and an orange face. But anyway, go ahead.
But that's all part of the makeup.
It is. It is.
You pay that price. Football is, in theory, going to go on
This is why I'm
behind
in
us.
radio, by the way, because face for radio. I don't worry about the makeup.
You know what? If you stick with us through this broadcast, I don't know what I want to give out to everyone, but if you do, thank you for doing that. By the way, brought to us by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, not only a friend of this channel, friend of the Southeastern Sports Network.
They've been with us since day one. From a partnership standpoint, I mean, for those that don't know, we also do numerous high schools in the area. They've been there with us through thick and thin, a variety of programs. I mean, the thing is, you look at and you say Choctaw Nation, and a lot of people, if you're outside, you think of the casino. What you don't think about, though, are things like family violence prevention. That's a big thing that they do, and it's a service that's open to anyone. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a tribal member or not. It's a service that's available to any citizen. And so not only are they a great partner to us and what we do and what you do, they're really a great partner to the communities they serve, the 10.5 counties, and of course they do a lot of other things in other places. So,
well, they're going to, as some folks are starting to make their way here into Paul Laird Field, and I don't blame them for staying back in the field house as long as absolutely possible. But when they do come out here and play here in a moment, this is a matchup as far as GAC play has been. Of course, Southeastern and Henderson State, both in the Great American Conference, it's been dominated by Henderson State.
Yeah, it has. And I mean, last year was a year that Southeastern had them on the hook out there in Arkadelphia. Give up 14 unanswered in the fourth quarter of that game. They've had some close matchups. It's just one of those deals where Henderson seems to have the upper hand. And if you look at it, not only in football, it's been that way with basketball as well, especially in games that are played out there in Arkadelphia. And so, I think the challenge for Southeastern today really is trying to find their identity a little bit. I say that because they've got returners in some key spots. They've got returning starters on both sides of the ball, but it is a new, familiar head coach in Bo Atterbury. It is a new play caller in Alex Rainwater. And the interesting thing about Rainwater to me is that he studied under the last two guys. He came in as a student assistant under Chad Spear, who was Atterbury's OC, and then he learned under Fenwick, and those are two distinctly different styles. And and Alice and I talked about this. The funny thing is if you take the best of both worlds, and I think that's what he's trying to do. But at the same time, you're trying to do it with practically a new offensive line. There's two returning starters on that O-line, but one moved over to center. You add in the fact that you opened week one with what I think is, over the last decade, year in, year out, the best defensive line in this conference seemingly ends up being Southern Arkansas, at least with the numbers. When you look at their defensive ends, year in and year out, those guys are always setting their 9.5, 10.5, 12 sacks. And it's not one, it's two every year. And so your offensive line, really got baptized by fire last week, having to face that. And then this week you get Henderson State that this, we'll see how this bears out over the course of the season. It's hard to tell right now. But they've got a lot of returners on their front three. And not only do they have returners, they have depth. They may have more depth on the defensive line than anyone else in this league. And so they're able to run them in and out, in and out. That's obviously going to be a problem that Southeastern's going to have to deal with. And, last week they couldn't get the run game going, so they had to rely a little bit more on the pass. I think, and I ain't going to say I think, I know. I mean, I've known Coach Atterbury for years now. He wants a balanced attack, and he wants that column to show something like 250 passing, 150 rushing. Can they do that against Henderson State in a really quality defense that, rolled off 31 unanswered last week against East Central? That's going to be a difficult deal. And then on the defensive side of the ball, You got some new guys in the secondary. I thought they performed well last week. I think that they were just on the field too long in the second half is why that kind of got away. But this week they have a problem they're dealing with in that Corey and Burrell, great running back, second team all-region running back. We had 2 of those in this conference last year, by the way. That tells you something. The other guy was first team. And that's for everybody watching this that doesn't think the GAC is a good conference, okay? So we had 2 guys in there.
Who would think that?
Oh, well, it's just, we hear that. We hear that every now and then. I get it. We're the young guys in the group, so whatever. But when you look at how efficient they are, last year they don't take the ball away, but they don't turn it over. They were a -1 in turnover differential. Their quarterback, threw 4 picks all season long. Where I think Southeastern can get in on them was last year, if you recall, they pulled their quarterback at halftime and went to a running quarterback, and that kind of threw Southeastern off a little bit and allowed for the comeback. If they can get after him today on that front 4, and last week there were 2 sacks produced by the front 4 for Southeastern, I think they'll have a shot. But it'll be a typical nip and tuck game that it's been. Basically, the last 5 times they played, there's not been any blowouts basically in the last 5 matchups they've played. They've all been 1-score games, including the one played here 2 years ago.
Yeah, and that was a tight one. I do recall that one very much so. I didn't set the table as well as I probably could have, just because my familiarity with Jay, we just get to talking, and sometimes it talks even like we're not even on the air. But we are setting the table then. Southeastern 0-1 after
we're
the
on
loss.
the air because of my language. You know that. See what I do to him? I'm the guest that he loves to have on, but then when he does it, he's like, why did I do this again?
Why did we book him? Who's in charge of booking? That's what I want to know. Southeastern 0-1 after a loss at Southern Arkansas last week on the road. Henderson State at home 1-0. The victory over East Central last week really just wore East Central down over the course of the evening in that one. Henderson State's coach Scott Maxfield been around for decades.
And a well coach. Dude, you look at his numbers. He's the winningest coach in Henderson State history, and he is by a margin. And as long as he's there, he's going to repetitively do 7 to 11 wins a season. He recruits well. He gets good players. Hats off to him and what he's been able to accomplish out there.
And then on the other side of the ball, you alluded to it, Coach Bo Atterbury, the once and future coach for Southeastern. He's the Grover Cleveland of the GAC football coaches, funny. As he was here before. And then, of course, Tyler Fenwick here for 4 years, and then Coach Atterbury has come back. And the thing about that, too, is that in his time here, he was here for 5 seasons, 5 winning seasons, winning record all 5 of those seasons. But you said they're still trying to find their identity, and I think that's a little bit to say because of the change at the head position.
I don't think it's necessarily, maybe a little bit. The one thing about that is, and it's very interesting to have Bo as the head coach simply because there are guys on the roster like Marquise Gray, Cam Tate, Deuce Pittman. He recruited. Fenwick didn't recruit. He recruited. So all of those guys in conversations with them, whether it be on or off air, whenever the announcement was made that Atterbury was going to be the new head man, they were excited. They know what to expect, and they've been able to communicate that well down to the lower class that don't know Coach or didn't know Coach Bo Atterbury. But what I really mean by that is, as far as finding an identity, I think the identity is there. The definition of what they want to be is there. I think that the flip side of that is the personnel in certain places where you need to be the strongest are new, i.e. the offensive line, i.e. the defensive line. And so I think that's really the way that should be taken. From an offensive standpoint, the bottom line is, we mentioned who they have returning as far as Marquise Gray, Deuce Pittman, Caleb Whitley, Giazzi Smith. They have a good receiver room, but what's kind of overlooked is they have a great running back room also. You get Nathaniel Amabu III, a guy that I called at Sherman High School, 5th all-time leading rusher in Sherman history. He goes to Angelo. He's 2-time all-conference running back of the year. But I think you saw this last week. you can be all those things, but you got to have blocking in front. And at this point, they're trying to figure that out a little bit. And finding and identifying an identity there is probably more important and maybe more along the lines of what I meant rather than finding a team identity, if that makes sense.
No, it does, and I understand that, and I appreciate the clarification. Well, we're wrapping up here on this Midwest Sports Saturday edition here from Paul Laird Field right here in Durant on the campus of Southeastern Oklahoma State University, again presented today by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma with Jay Lindley, who will be on the call then here in just a moment. Tell us what you expect from this evening's contest. 6 o'clock kickoff, I'll get that right, tonight on the Southeastern Sports Network. So what do you expect from tonight?
I expect to see a calmer Bryce Fields. I think, and for those that don't know, Bryce Fields, D2 transfer, came from South Carolina. He's the new trigger man for Southeastern this year. He's a guy that has athleticism. You know, we joked about it last year. Dalton Hatley knew the offense, but he was never a threat to run. This guy's a threat to run, and I think that last week we saw a quarterback that is finally getting his opportunity to be the lead guy with a team. He had that opportunity kind of taken away from him a year ago, and he took an injury early in the season, the way I understood it, and that's how he ended up with, here at Southeastern in the portal. I think you see a calmer version of him. He's obviously got the ability. You saw some throws last week where he missed Whitley a couple of times over the middle deep. I think those are going to be on the money today. I think you see a better gelling of the offensive line. All that to say, I still think you see a, nip and tuck game. So long as Southeastern doesn't shoot themselves in the foot, they can't have the 3 turnovers like they had last week. If they
there's
play
never a good time for turnovers, but those were bad times for
No,
turnovers.
yeah, and the positioning of those turnovers, 2 of those turnovers put Southern Ark right in plus territory, and you just can't do that. You can't do that against anyone, and you certainly can't do it against Southern Arkansas, and you certainly can't do it against Henderson State. If they can play a clean game today, clean up that aspect of it, I think you'll see what we've seen, like I said, the last 5 matchups, where it's been right there for the taking. And at that point, then it's going to come down to who executes late. And, I always like this matchup because I'm interested to see, you brought up Coach Maxfield earlier, and the utmost respect for him. It's interesting, though, to watch how his coaching style offensively has tweaked and changed over time when you consider the fact that when this league was started, you had a guy that led the league in passing, led all of NCAA in passing, throwing for 4,000 yards. It's not that way now. It's more of a balanced approach. And, I think with that, that Southeastern, again, they're going to have to play a clean game. I think Henderson right now is probably in a little bit better position than us, but I think this league, top to bottom, you hear Coach Atterbury say it all the time, that this league every Saturday is a game. You can't have a half-hearted effort in this league. If you do, you will lose, and that's of anyone. I mean, it doesn't matter. You go back and you look at some of the teams that have struggled in the last couple of years, a Northwestern or an Arkansas, Monticello. Any one of those guys can win a game today, and that's just the reality of it.
Absolutely. I agree with you on all of those facets, and stated very well, which is what you do. Which, by the way, if you want to watch a fantastic broadcast, you need to check out the Southeastern Sports Network. Jay Lindley on the call today, as always, and you'll appreciate that. You'll recognize his voice. Once you hear it, you will never be able to unhear it. I don't know. That sounded bad like that.
No.
Once you know it's Jay Lindley, you're always going to know that's him that is there.
Yeah, I'll never be able to rob a bank.
That's
It's never going to happen for me.
Mask or not. But a fantastic call, and it's a good broadcast as well. So you can find that Southeastern Sports Network.
Of course, got to credit Rob Johnson, my color guy. You've been a part of that broadcast, and credit Bob Sullins, who is making noise walking up the ladder right now here at Paul Laird to set up the
producer.
The high. Yeah, I mean, Bob. I'll give Bob all the credit on the video broadcast, and thankfully for you guys, you won't have to see my face during you'll hear my voice.
That's all right. We see it. We try to get it on Midwest Sports.
Yeah. Once a year. Once a year for the FBI.
Here's your
but he does a great job. I mean, he's really You know Bob well. He dove into the video side of things, being an old radio guy, and he really does an outstanding job with this.
He does. He really does. And he was a good radio broadcaster too. But yeah, he does video. Let me give you this statistic. This is your perspective, Jay.
Okay.
For the game today, and then I'll wrap it up. I will say first off, thanks again to Jay Lindley for being a part of this broadcast, and to Coach Sidney Youngblood Blanton. I want to give a shout out to Matt Thomas, who is right over there right now, for letting me come up and be in the shade today and not in the direct sunlight for one more weekend.
Whatever's going on with the helicopter behind us.
Yeah, we've got a helicopter behind us right now. I think you can see that just over Jay's
Maybe
head
a new
there.
donor to put an air conditioner in this press box.
I would take that. I would definitely take that. Here's your perspective, and a shout out to a friend. The last time that Southeastern won against Henderson State in this series, it predates the GAC, number one, and number two, it was the first broadcast ever that I did with Michael Westbrook.
Oh, Westbrook.
August of 2009. So my longtime broadcast partner, Michael Westbrook, if you get a chance to see this, man, what did you do after that? I mean, that Southeastern ran out of wins against Henderson State. I guess
I was 29 then, Joey.
Oh my goodness,
29.
I was not 29 at that point in time.
But you did have a little bit of hair.
I did not on that day. No, I honestly, you have to go back to 2005 to when the last time I had
Well,
hair.
and likewise, thank you for letting me take your show off the rails for a little bit. You let me do it once a year. You
We
know
it's
better,
coming.
but yeah,
We
but
know
I
it's
appreciate it.
coming. Thank you for watching. We will have the post-game wrap-up, and we will also have some broadcasts over the course. We've got some shorts coming in and get some scores and highlights for you as well. And by the way, today is band day. So Jolie, who's been my assistant the last 2 weeks, she's playing in the band out there today. More than 500 band students are registered to be a part of band day today. So we'll have that for you. And then again, the post-game wrap-up from Paul Laird Field. Again, I'm Joey McWilliams. This is Jay Lindley. God bless you all, and thanks for watching. Have a great day. Enjoy your Saturday.